Good morning, One Life. Glad everybody took a few minutes to jump on the call this morning. Got a good crowd here. Got a great lineup of information for you. So just get ready, roll up your sleeves, make sure your tennis shoes are on. It's going to be a fun time. Obviously, the purpose of the call is to get informed, to get all the good nuggets that One Life has to share in a very short period of time to start your week off right. All the lines are muted and will stay muted until the question and answer portion of our call, which comes very close to the end. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off this morning with our devotion. And, Derrick Moore is no stranger to One Life, our meetings, academies, leadership summit, and our conference calls. Derrick Moore serves as our Director of Leadership Development. But for those of you who have not met or had a chance to hear Derrick speak, prior to his career at One Life, he was an outstanding NFL running back for 7 full years. He's an accomplished motivational speaker and has inspired the Georgia Tech athletes with his guidance and powerful speeches. We're very glad to have Derrick Moore on the call this morning to bring us our devotion. Derrick, are you with us?
I am here, David. Good morning.
Good morning, Derrick. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you all for having me. What I like to do is take the liberties of praying for our devotion at the end, and so I want to not pause to do that now. I'll wait till the end of our devotion to do so, but I like to just get right into it if that's okay with everyone that's on the call. I will say good morning to everyone, and it's where you are. I hope it's as beautiful a fall day as it is here in the great state of Georgia. I'm certainly enjoying it as I look from my office window here. So anyway, I like to get started, and I'll be as brief as I possibly can, and simply take us to Matthew chapter 25 in the Bible, which is the greatest book ever written, of course. And I want to sort of give you some edits from Matthew 25, and you can use as a cross-reference Luke chapter 19 also, verses 12 through 28. In Matthew, it's chapter 25, verses 30. And so here we go. And simply, it's that old parable, of course, in Bible days, Jesus' day, often he spoke in parables, which can be translated as short stories. And so Jesus was a incredible storyteller. And he taught his disciples the art of telling stories, because stories do an incredible thing in all of us as it brings us to visuals and scenes that we otherwise would never be able to picture. And I thought he did such a masterful job at creating what Hollywood does when we go to the box office to purchase tickets. We go and we sit in a dark theater and we sit there with the excitement and the anticipation of watching a story unfold. And biblically, this was something that our Lord did to paint pictures, at least for the disciples, but certainly those pictures are certainly captured even in our modern day existence. And so what I like to do is try to really unfold this story a little bit. It's the story of the parable of the talents, if you are familiar with that story, where the master of these servants that worked for him would come to 3 of them, and he would give 5 talents to one of them. He gave 2 talents to a second one of them, and then he gave 1 to a third. And the moral of the story really is, what did they do with the talents that he gave them? And that is a classic line. You need to highlight that in red. What do we do with the things that we're entrusted with, what we've been given? Before I get any further, I got to reading this story, and there were some characteristics from this story that reminds me of the lead system that we operate with at One Life. It's an amazing piece here, simply because when we're talking about, we're all familiar with how the lead system works through our company there with Agent Hub, and as we work with a PPL, premium per lead opportunity, which our agents, and we're all held to that $100 annualized premium per lead, and as a result of that, we're given so many, and sometimes there are certain kinds, if you will. Some think it is at least sometimes, and what's amazing is that those leads go out And as a result, there are certain returns on those leads that are expected. And have we been really good stewards or good servants of those particular leads? So as I'm reading through some of the edits, keep that whole lead opportunity in mind as I'm reading through the story and paraphrasing it just a little bit for us as we go through it. But it's interesting that it is a simple story that our Lord tells here, and it's a man who is preparing to leave on a journey, and he's entrusted his possessions to his servants, and he distributes his wealth among 3 servants and apportioned them to them on the basis of their abilities. To the first, and keep that in line now, to the basis of one's abilities, the basis of where are we at that $100 PPL mark, and where are we in those ratios. And he goes on to say, apportion them on the basis of their abilities. And to the first he entrusted 5 talents, to the second 2 talents, and to the third 1 talent. And the first 2 servants quickly set to work with their master's money. So he gave them to them, he distributed them, he passed them out, and it says that the first 2 quickly set to work with their master's money. They didn't waste it. They decided they were going to run those leads, or they were going to run that money in such a way and in such a direction that the returns would be there. And so the third servant did not invest his master's money at all. He dug a hole in the ground and buried his master's money. And when the master returned, the first 2 eagerly met the master, apparently delighted in the opportunity to multiply their master's money. And both were commended as good and faithful servants. And here's another moral of the story. They were commended as good and faithful servants. And both were rewarded with increased responsibilities in their master's service. Both were invited to share in their master's joy as a result of their faithful service, if you will. And so the master's dealing with the third servant, it was very different than the other 2. This servant came to his master with only the talent his master had originally entrusted to him. He did not increase his master's money at all. In fact, if this were to take place today, that money would likely be worthless because of inflation. And the servant offered a feeble excuse for his conduct. And so he told his master that he was a harsh and cruel man, a man who was demanding and who expected gain where he had not labored. He contended that this is why he was afraid to take a risk with any kind of investment. And so he simply hid the money, and now he returned it without any gain. The master rebuked the servant for being lazy. He called him lazy. You didn't move this, you mean? He took his talent from him, gave it to the one who earned 10, and cast this fellow, in according to the scriptures, into outer darkness where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. And certainly we won't be casting anybody out into darkness, and there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. But we should carefully note that the outcome of faithful service and of unfaithful service, and that's really the moral of this story, is faithful service and unfaithful service in this parable. Faithful service led to increased responsibilities in the kingdom of heaven and eternal joy in the presence of the master, who is Christ in this instance. And unfaithful service led to condemnation, the removal of one's stewardship, and an eternity of weeping and gnashing of teeth and out of darkness, away from the master's presence. It's an amazing, amazing parable that I think captures the faithfulness of 2 servants who took what they were distributed, went out, produced and reproduced, invested in such a way and yielded a return, and thus the master was happy, pleased, and satisfied and gave them more, increased what they went out and gained by giving them more of a dividend as a result of their faithful service. And contrastly, in the second servant, he did not do what the master was told. He sat on them. He didn't run them. He didn't go out and reproduce them. And as a result, the master returns and took from him and gave to the one that went out and produced double his portion. It's an incredible biblical thesis on doing what we've been entrusted with being faithful over what we've been given, earning the right to be approved by the master, earning the right to be given more responsibility as a result of our faithful service. And I think the message of the morning is that I encourage all of us to remain faithful to what we've been given, to be faithful to what we have to process so that the returns can be in direct proportion and in some cases exceed what we've been given. This entire, I believe, parable is about responsibility and the absolute ability of these servants to go out and do what they've been entrusted to do. It's an incredible parable and one that I have thoroughly enjoyed over the years, not to sit on my talent, but to use it for God's greater glory so that, one, he can be glorified and that I can also participate in that by receiving a healthy bounty of returns that's sustainable not only for my company, but sustainable for my very personal life and my family life. That's what taking what we've been given is all about. I hope you've enjoyed that, and at your leisure, please go back and read Matthew 25, 14 through 30, and then cross-reference that with Luke chapter 19, verses 12 through 28. Well, I will take this time to pray for us, and I want to thank you for just sitting in on this short devotion, and I hope there is a takeaway for everyone. I certainly do have one. As a matter of fact, I have a couple from this parable, and I would hope that you will also take something away and find it useful and applicable in your everyday life, personal life, and professional life. Let me pray for us. Great God, thank you for this devotion, this parable of the talent, as it is an amazing short story of, Father, how you reward faithfulness, how you reward servanthood, and your commitment to us when we labor and we trust what we've been given, and we go out and we reproduce what is expected. And I ask that you would empower all of our agents as they prep for the rest of this week, that we might be strong and courageous and prepared and efficient and effective in our work endeavors. Thank you so much for this short time and opportunity. May it not fall on deaf ears and hollow ground, but it might be fruitful soil and ground it falls on, and the returns will be 100-fold. It's in your magnificent name I pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, Derrick, for that inspirational devotion to remind us all to put our talents to good use, not hide them to be successful. You must do this. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And speaking of talents, we're going to read through our production report for those who use their personal production talents. To hit their production report from 10/27 to 10/31 was this week. $458,894.04 as One Life Agency. Fantastic week in production. And to go through our top 10 for that particular week, number 1, Wally Yangham with $18,279.24 of production. Steve Thornton with $11,997. Kirsten Goodman with $9,485. Dwayne Watts with $8,413 of submitted annual premium. Steve Burdamy, $7,580 of submitted premium. Richard Johnson, $7,076 of submitted premium. Lizandro Zuniga with $6,920. Mr. William Rowe, $6,807. Mr. Aziz Adamitten Jr. with $6,624, and rounding out the top 10, Patricia Rucker with $6,464 of submitted annual premium. All of our resources for social media, for conference calls, are all to keep you plugged in. So make sure that you're sharing information about our conference calls. Ask your co-agents, ask your managers, ask your downline agents, were you on today's call? Ask them a question about the call to make sure they were on the call. Pass the information along so we can get more people involved in this great time of sharing. One great way to stay in connection with us is our new text messaging service, and you can text the message OLA like One Life America, just OLA, and that is not case sensitive, so it can be uppercase or lowercase. Text that to 51660. That's 51660. And remember, during the month of November, everybody that joins in our text communication is entered in a chance to win a $100 gas card. So make sure you get in. That's text OLA to 51660. Got to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Check our LinkedIn page out. Stay connected. I send out emails periodically, sometimes several a week, sometimes several a day when there's some good information to pass along. And one I've recently sent out was the text messaging service. Another is our One Life online store. If you hadn't bought your One Life apparel yet, got you a nice polo or long sleeve shirt, ladies and men's options, lots of colors out there. You can purchase that at onelife.geigershops.com. That's ONELIFE.GEIGERSHOPS.com. Go on and get your One Life merchandise. Make sure I sent an email out this morning with Derrick Moore's Motivational Monday Minutes. So check that video out. It's a fantastic video, another good way to start your week off. And make sure to check out Derrick Moore's leadership page. You can go to the OneLifeAmerica.com site, go to the leadership and Derrick Moore page, and find all this good stuff there, along with podcasts and all his videos and archive of information. I want to jump now into the featured guest speaker of our portion this morning, and Mr. Lee Mowry is going to join us. And I've known Lee for many years, and I'm excited that he is now part of the One Life team. Lee boasts a 40-plus year resume of agency building and executive management in the insurance industry. He now serves as our Vice President of Sales, and Lee Mowry has a smile that will light up a room, a wardrobe that will make New York designers happy, and can show anyone that One Life is a place to be in this sometimes confusing world of insurance. Lee, we're glad to have you on the call. Are you with us this morning?
Thank you, David. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, I can. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everybody, from beautiful St. Mary's, Georgia, down here on the Georgia-Florida coast. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be on the weekly conference call this week with my good friend Derrick Moore and with all the rest of you as members of the One Life family. You know, you've all heard the old saying, if at first you don't succeed, then try and try again. Well, I've got a different version of that saying that I like to use, and that is, if at first you don't succeed, then try to fail again. And what do I mean by that? Well, when I first got in the insurance business as a brand new agent way back in 1971 with Metropolitan Life, I often got pretty frustrated and down on myself if I didn't make a particular sale or if I had a bad week, as we all do. And then I heard a motivational speaker at a life underwriters meeting give a talk entitled Try to Fail. And that message has stayed with me throughout my 44-plus year career. But why in the world would anyone recommend that you try to fail? Because it's a proven fact, actually, that the more times you try to fail, the more times you're likely to succeed. In business, and especially our business, as in life, there is an inherent fear of failure. Comedian Bill Cosby says, quote, "In order to succeed, your desire for success should be greater than your fear of failure." How you define failure is important. One dictionary defines failure as, quote, "the omission of expected or required action." But as it applies to our business, failure might be defined as not having made a sale that we thought was a sure thing, not having made any sales for the week, not meeting our monthly or annual goals that we set for ourselves. But if we're defining failure as anything other than perfect, then we're not being realistic, because failure is a part of life. It's not the failure in our lives that count. It's what we do with those failures that counts. Richard Fenton, in his article, quote, "Success Hinges on Your Failure," says, quote, "What if the greatest strategy in the world was not to go for yes, but to go for no?" He goes on to say, "Instead of viewing failure as something to be avoided, turn it into a stepping stone on the path to success and gratification. In other words, success is the destination. Failure is how you get there." David Williams, in his article, "The One Thing Successful People Don't Do," says, "The greatest secret to success is to learn how to fail up." He goes on to say, it would even be fair to say failure is the driver that makes truly successful people even more hungry and determined to achieve their success. Some of the biggest failures in business, sports, entertainment, and other areas were also some of the most successful people in their respective fields. Did you know, for example, that Thomas Edison tried 1,000 times before he developed a successful prototype for the light bulb? Is he considered a failure? Did you know that Walt Disney was fired by an editor in his first job because he, quote, lacked imagination and no original ideas? Wow. His first animation company went bankrupt, and supposedly he was turned down hundreds of times when he sought financing for Disney World, whose annual revenues now are over $30 billion a year. Was he a failure? How about Stephen King, the author, whose first book, Carrie, was rejected 30 times by publishers, so he threw it in the trash. His wife retrieved it and encouraged him to resubmit it, and the rest is history, as he has sold over 350 million copies of his books. Did you know that Colonel Sanders' famous secret chicken recipe was rejected over 1,000 times before a restaurant accepted it? He founded Kentucky Fried Chicken at age 65. What kind of failure was he? And how about the baseball player who struck out 1,330 times and 8,399 times at bat in his career, more than anyone else on his entire team? But he also hit 714 home runs in that career. That was Babe Ruth, who held the record for most home runs in a career until Henry Aaron broke that record. He kept trying to fail. Then there was the young high school basketball player who was cut from the team and went home and locked himself in his room and cried. Later he said, quote, I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career and lost almost 300 games. On 26 occasions, I've been entrusted to take the game-winning shot, and I missed. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. That basketball player is Michael Jordan. Finally, there was the young lawyer who, after losing his first job, ran for state legislature and was defeated. So he started his own business, and it failed. 2 years later, his fiancée died, and 1 year after that, he suffered a nervous breakdown. 2 years after that, he ran for Speaker of the House in his state, and he lost. 5 years after that, he decided to run for the U.S. Congress, and he was defeated. 5 years later, he tried to run again, but couldn't even get the nomination of his party. A year later, he applied for and was rejected for the post of land officer for his state. And 5 years after that, he ran for the U.S. Senate, but was defeated. 2 years later, he failed to even get the nomination of his party for Vice President of the United States. And 2 years after that, he was defeated again in his bid for the U.S. Senate. Finally, after failing over and over in business and in election after election, Abraham Lincoln was elected President of the United States. Now, there's a failure for you. These are just a few of the many success stories that were all made possible by these individuals trying over and over to fail. There is no clear path to success for any of us. The most successful people will tell you that their road to success was paved with many failures. Many, if not all, have experienced major failures, but they never gave up. So let me ask you, are you trying to fail enough times each day? Each week? Are you setting 3 or 4 appointments a day when you could be setting 7 or 8 or more? Pulling 20 to 30 A leads a week when you could also be pulling 20 or 30 B and C leads in addition to your A leads? What about that stack of leads on your desk that you printed off many weeks ago? When was the last time you tried working some of those? Are you hearing as many no's as you could hear in a day? Because remember, the more no's you have, the more yeses you're likely to have. Here are just a few simple things we can learn from it as relates to what we do. Number one, and I've said this many times, many of you have heard me say it in meetings, don't take the no's personally. Personalizing a failure can wreak havoc on your self-esteem and your confidence. Separate yourself from the failure or failed sale and move on to the next opportunity. Renowned Pastor Joel Osteen says, quote, "You must make a decision that you're going to move on. It won't happen automatically. You'll have to rise up and say, I don't care how hard this is. I don't care how disappointed I am. I'm not going to let this get the best of me. I'm moving on with my life," unquote. Number 2, don't dwell on the failure or sale you didn't make. Dwelling on it will not change the outcome. It'll only intensify the outcome. The quicker you move on, the better off you'll be. Number 3, learn from the failure or sale you didn't make. Step back and ask yourself, why did I fail? What did I learn from this experience? Maybe I came on too strong. Maybe I did not come on strong enough. Maybe I did not listen to what my client was saying. Maybe I didn't identify the need well enough. Or maybe they just weren't a candidate for insurance. Number 4, don't worry about trying to please others or what others will say. The only one you need to please is yourself. And if you've done the best job you can do in identifying the need and recommending a solution to your client and they still did not buy, then it's their loss. Remember, success comes to those who are success conscious, while failure comes to those who are failure conscious. Insurance icon J. Clement Stone once said, quote, "Like success, failure is many things to many people. With positive mental attitude, failure is a learning experience, a rung on the ladder, a plateau at which to get your thoughts in order and prepare to try again." Henry Ford once said, quote, "One who fears failure limits his worth. Failure is the opportunity to begin again more intelligently." So do yourself a favor. This week, set yourself a goal to fail more times than you've ever failed before. And don't be surprised if you succeed more than you ever have before. David, that's about it for me.
Lee, thank you so much. It's a great reminder once again to continue to try to fail, to fail again. If you fail again, fail one more time. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. And we're going to open our lines now for question and answers, changing it over right. We are set up now where you can hit *6 to unmute yourself, and you can ask a question for Lee Mowry. So feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, hey, this is Keith Mickles. I have a question.
Yes, Keith, thank you.
Yeah, is there a book that has all those fascinating tidbits in there that I could get? I thought that was pretty good.
There are a number of things on the internet. As David knows and many others with One Life know from my talks, I love quotes. I love to go into the internet and find things that relate to talks I'm going to make. So all of this I found in different websites on the internet. It's not all in one book that I know of.
Yeah.
If you want to send me your email address, I'd be glad to send you the sources where I got these, or even send these quotes to you. But they mean a lot to me. I love to read quotes. I try to do that every day. It means something in my day. So.
Okay, well, that's great. It worked out. It was very motivating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good morning, Adam Kane from Asheville, North Carolina.
Hey, Adam. Good to have you on the call.
Yep, good morning. I just wanted to say thank you for the research and the wisdom that you shared with us this morning. It goes directly to some of the conversations I'm having with my downline agents who are fighting and struggling with the challenges we all face week after week after week. And so I just wanted to say thank you for the inspiration and the wisdom.
Well, I appreciate those words very much. It means a lot to me. They mean something to me, too. They're not just words for me. I will say that after I heard that speech back in 1971, I changed my entire method of operation. The old method at Metropolitan then was 30 phone calls on Monday night equals 10 appointments equals 3 sales. I decided if I could increase that to 60 phone calls, I would increase my appointments and my sales, and I doubled my income the second year because of that one speech I heard. I tried to fail more.
Thank you very much, Adam, for being on the call. We appreciate you being with us. Any other questions for Mr. Lee Mowry?
Yes, I do. Hi, I'm Chris Amato. I'm Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm actually Adam's downline. Aside from the quotes, the motivation, the attempting to fail, what are the other habits that you have yourself in every day to be successful?
A good question, and I'll give you one right up front that comes to mind that I've used in a couple of talks this year with One Life agents, and I think it always is a reminder that we all never can hear enough of. And that is, I asked a question recently at a meeting in New Jersey, I believe it was. I said, what are the three most important things you walk out of a sale with? And the first two, everybody got right, an application and either a check or a method of payment, first initial draft. Finally, somebody got the third most important item, and this is what I would leave you with, is what changed my entire career, and that is referrals. If you're not asking for referrals, whether you make that sale or not, but particularly if you make the sale, then you're leaving sales out there that somebody else is going to get. I use as the example, and I won't belabor the story, but I was working on a Labor Day Monday, the only one in the office, got a phone call, asked me to come down and see him right then. I drove down on Labor Day to an appointment down near Atlanta Stadium, and not a great area. I sold 4 applications. I asked him about other family members or friends that might benefit from the same kind of service I provided, and I wrote 16 applications off that phone call that came in on that Labor Day. So referrals are such a key to our business. Be proud of your profession and ask these people for referrals and leave them 4 or 5 business cards, because those are just more sales that you could be making.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Any other questions for Lee Mowry while we got him on the phone? We've just passed the 30-minute mark, so we can take 1 or 2 more questions. All right, fantastic. Well, that's some good stuff, Lee. We really appreciate you joining the call this morning. We're going to go ahead and wrap up our call. And this, my statement, my quote to end our call today on Monday kind of falls in line with the using your talents and trying to fail again, continuing to work hard, which is, remember, dreams don't work unless you do. So put those talents to action, try to fail again, and make this a very successful week. Thank you, One Life, for joining us for the call. Everybody have a fantastic week. Goodbye.